Welcome, listeners, to Kyle and Cody's Called CinemaCast. This is Kyle and Cody's Called CinemaCast. I don't know why I led into that. I'm Kyle. The other guy's Cody. Say hi, Cody.
Hello.
So yeah, I opened that weirdly. No,
You'd think after I don't know, almost 3 years of doing this, we'd at least get something correct right off the hop. But
I, I mean, name one podcast that does their intros correctly.
no, I kind of low key stopped listening to podcasts. My dad wrote a porno kind of finished for me, and now I'm in in need of a new podcast that's
Huh.
okay. I shouldn't say my dad wrote a porno finished for me. It finished a year and a half ago, and I'm now just finishing it. So uh yeah, and then my campaign that I normally listen to, which is the campaign podcast, did a really nice Star Wars campaign, and then they switched over to a different system called Skyjacks, and their main GM left, and then the main GM switched over, and the game kind of shifted, and now it's kind of weird. And I mean, it's kind of generally the same. It's just more piratey in space than
Hmm.
space like Star Wars was. They're playing Skyjack's game, so
Yeah, I keep up with Dice Funk. I'm on a big Behind the Bastards binge currently. It's pretty fun. But yeah, I listen to a few. I've dropped off of a couple of them lately, but yeah, we're doing the movie Dungeon Master today from 1984. Weirdly enough, I got Baldur's Gate 3 and it took about okay, so I started the download at 1 p.m. on Friday, and it finished at about 9:30 a.m. the next morning. So what is that? 20 and a half hour download?
yeah, that is so rough.
Yeah,
When I was talking to Kyle, and we were talking about doing a live show, because we did at one point in time. I asked him to do a speed test for me to see, because at that point in time both of us were on rural Saskatchewan internet, and I was looking at it and I'm like, man, he's got fraction of the upload and download speed
mhm.
that we have out at the farm. So I don't know how far you are out of town. I'm assuming it's roughly 15 to 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
in the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah, that's why Cody hosted the live show, is because my internet's just that bad. Uh
Well, no, now that I'm in town, my internet speed has quadrupled, if not 5 times what it used to be. So, I mean,
but anyway, the point of why I'm telling the story. While I'm doing the 20-hour download, I got to do stuff that doesn't require internet. Um so I'm playing a little bit of a game on my Switch, and I decide to throw in a couple movies. I watched a couple old Roger Corman movies, which both weren't very good. I don't think they're his upper known thing. I watched Swamp Women and the She Gods of Shark Island, something like that. Those were just I mean, they're an hour long, so who cares?
why does
But
that sound
yeah,
absolutely good?
no, they weren't.
Why? Oh, She Got the Shark Reef. Oh, it's early 1950, late 1950s. It's 1958.
Yeah, no. Yeah. For a brief review on
Gosh,
both of those, they're clearly if these were made in the 80s, they'd be even 10, 20 years later, they'd be borderline pornos. But because it's the early 60s or late 50s, they can't do that. So it's just women in Shark Reef is Hawaiian dresses or Hawaiian style dresses, and then Swamp Women is just cutoff shorts. Not Daisy Dukes because they can't do that yet. But yeah, they're not very good movies. But before those two, I decided I was gonna watch a movie I picked up while I was in the city last weekend. I picked up a copy of The Annihilators, which is this 1985 movie about these Vietnam vets who need to go through the thing of like I think ripping off Death Wish 3. It's not very good. It's like really super inconsistent about like oh none of the like different scenes like it felt like different parts of the movie had like different rules about how much gore they could show. You know, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Like you'd get through one scene and like like the entire Vietnam sequence, like at the very beginning of the movie, there's no gore in it. They just when they shoot a guy, he just like falls over like it's a movie from the 1950s. But
Right.
in the next scene after they get back from Vietnam, they're showing like one of the guys from the Vietnam sequence who got paralyzed with through a war injury, and they show this scene where he gets murdered by these street thugs, and it's a whole brutal scene where they like kill him with a sledgehammer with a meat hammer, which they don't really show, but they do show this one the his customer, a lady, getting like her dress ripped off and then just getting stabbed. So it was, and then you don't get anything resembling that amount of gore through the rest of the movie, which was weird because it wasn't even like the opening scene. Continuing, getting to the point, because I'm rambling too much. This movie also has a random scene of nudity at the beginning, which is not reflected by the rest of the movie. That movie, Annihilators, is made in 1985. This movie is 1984. So I guess
Oh,
just that's just where they were at in the mid 80s, I suppose.
yeah. This opening nude scene just like didn't make any sense. I guess it was supposed to be like a dream sequence, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Um.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So and then it goes into the like the actual movie. But what I was gonna mention there earlier about the violence, it's like, have you ever seen the early, like the actual A Team?
I saw like the first episode and never. I never
Okay,
ended up
so
watching the rest of it.
apparently in the A Team, like they weren't allowed to actually show anybody die on television. So like you have these big gunfight sequence between them and the A Team, and like they're shooting down helicopters or whatever goes on in the A Team, and they have to show the pilots like getting out of the helicopter since it like crash lands to the earth, and like get out of the helicopter and show that they're okay, so that there's no like on-screen
Hmm.
deaths essentially, because it was all shot for television at the time, and at the time television wasn't allowed to show any form of on-screen deaths. So but
Yeah.
I feel like that's not necessarily the case because it's movies. like
Hmm.
like movies would have different regulations than what the television show would have, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of hilarious to think of that, like, out of all the things that happen in the A Team, nobody fucking dies at all. Like,
Hmm. But yeah, at least this movie has a little bit more of excuse for having like a little bit of inconsistency, seeming as it has 7 directors and 8 writers.
yeah, but like, I don't know. Like, in my opinion, it just seems like that doesn't really reflect on the fact that it has 7 writers and like 8 directors. It's just like it's really lazy. Like,
Hmm.
it's kind of like when we watched Samurai Cop the other day. There was something that I couldn't be able to show on screen because it's nudity, and we're on we did it over Facebook, and I was like, I don't think I can show this without getting like booted off of whatchamacallit. But in the first 10 minutes of Samurai Cop, they have this lady who's an assassin. She was sent out to kill like a businessman of the CEO of some corporation or whatever in the movie. I don't think it's really that important to the plot. But what she does is after having sex with this guy, she's like topless and they're sitting there having a conversation and she pretty much just gives up the whole plot to the first movie to to, to like catch the viewer up to speed who didn't watch Samurai Cop 1 to like be able to watch Samurai Cop 2. And I've coined it, and it's probably been coined before. I can't really say I've coined it, but I've claimed that this style of writing is called sexplanation because it's like they're deriving it from like, oh, there's boobs on scene. Of course, you're gonna pay attention a little bit more, but like this has no purpose to it. Like in this scene, like there's absolutely nothing. This lady's naked just for the purpose of being naked. There's no plot to like try and like hint at or give away at this point in time. We don't even know the people's name at this point in time. But he's just laying down on like a hospital bed, and his fiance, I guess, would probably be the correct term. They're not fiancés yet, so just girlfriend walks in, and then yeah, it gets weird. But that's like we were saying something about 7 directors here.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, to
Wha-
explain that, this movie, like Wikipedia describes it as an anthology film. Not really. It's a movie. It's an anthology film in the way that like Crash was an anthology film. To compare it to a film that like we reviewed on the show, but yeah, they call it an anthology film, but it is like one full plot. It's just that like the movie's divided into segments that have are each directed by a different like director or sometimes pair of directors. Or yeah, I think each one has a single director, but I think a couple of them, one of them has two writers.
Allen, Charles Band,
Yeah,
John Carl Buchler, Stephen Ford, Peter Menugan,
yeah,
Ted Nicola, and Rosemary Turco.
yeah,
Um, was the written and directed by a different person.
and
So those were the sevens.
yeah, and most of those guys also write their pieces. Like these are mostly like writer directors doing each section of the movie. I mean, exceptions are I think Jeffrey Byron, who's the who plays the main character. He writes one section, the section called the slasher, but he doesn't direct it because I mean that's just a lot of responsibility directing a movie. You all directing a even short what would essentially be a short film, and I think there's two writers on this. Also, one of the Charles Band is a producer on the movie, or is the producer. So yeah, it's kind of yeah, it's interesting to go. It is one continuous story. It's just that each yeah, all of them are put into different bits of vignettes. They feel fairly consistent, honestly. But yeah, I mean, they are very. They feel like they're part of the same story. I mean, they have very different. The visual effects are usually pretty similar, with a few exceptions. There's a couple. There's a very Harryhausen. Is that the guy I'm looking for? There's a stop motion monster in one of the scenes, which is kind of interesting. Sorry, you were saying before I rudely interrupted you.
Oh, I was saying, if you had like 5 reasons to guess why I picked like this movie, like what would you like number one reason be?
You thought there'd be more dice in it. Baldur's Gate tie-in.
No. I've had this movie on this list for quite a long time. And the reason is if you go down to the unpopular culture segment of the Wikipedia page, the film was referenced in uh, an anime, like a bridge version that I really like to watch called Sword Art Online Abridged. And it was referenced in the 11th episode of the Sword Art Online Abridged. And it was referenced because of the big quote, "I reject your reality and substitute my own," which, uh, was said to, Mystemia Mystemia, yeah, that guy, like, the main villain's name eventually, like, later on in the series, like, in the movie, so,
I remember that. I couldn't remember where I knew that quote from, but I knew I had heard it before.
apparently, this movie also goes under, like, 2 names, and one of it was, Rage War: The Challenges of Excalibur or Digital Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has, like, 3 names in 1984,
Yeah,
so
actually, on
okay.
my on the version I watched on Tubi, when you turn it on, the movie is the title screen read Rage War, just Rage War.
Mhm.
So that was so that's yeah. That confused me for a minute, but yeah.
I thought Rage War was the name of one of the sequences, like, that kind of
Yeah,
made
that's what
sense
that
to
was
me
my
that,
guess too.
also it has a tie-in with, the Wasps, um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which was a heavy metal band in 1982,
Yeah, I
so
went into a little bit of a thing on them, which we'll get to when we get to their scene. But yeah, so what was I gonna say here? Yeah, this movie is very like called Dungeon Master, which I guess they let them use in the 80s. I don't think I guess D&D wasn't as much of a thing. I guess it wasn't as powerful as it is now. But yeah, because I think isn't Dungeon Master a copyrighted term? Or maybe it's not. I
oh,
don't know.
probably now at this point in time, they'd probably sue them at this point in time because
Oh,
of the
actually,
whole,
no, I don't think it is.
uh
I don't think it is now that I'm thinking
no?
about it a bit more. I don't know
Mhm.
if you can like describe a DM, a dungeon master as a dungeon master in other games, but I don't know that D&D owns the term.
Yeah, I feel like even if they did, you just, like, switch over to something a little bit more generic and call yourself, like, a game master or something like that, just to avoid getting sued by, Wizards of the Coast or, yeah, at this
Yeah,
point, so
I feel like there's ways you could tempt fate with that, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, this movie is less D&D and more Tron meets D&D or Tron versus D&D.
yeah, and I mean, with that being said, like, the Tron came out, like, 2 years prior to this movie, so you can definitely see that there was some influence on it, in my opinion, throughout the movie, so
Yeah, I need to rewatch Tron.
mm,
I slept through like half of that.
like, the original movie Tron or the
Yeah, yeah.
the remake that came out, I don't know, a
Well,
couple years back, I
it's a
guess.
sequel, but I mean the original because I watched it right when I got Disney Plus, but I slept through um the middle half of it pretty heavily. So
Um, apparently in, the year before this, the main character, played by Jeffrey Byron,
yeah.
was in another film called Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin
Oh
that looked very
yes, I want to do that next week.
yeah, the story is a space age western which combines themes
Oh
of esoteric
yes.
sorcery and high technology, and it was filmed in 3D. So,
Oh god.
if we if we get around to it, we'll definitely pick it up. Um,
Oh that. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Why are we watching that movie? That sounds so much cooler.
and apparently both the main character, Jeffrey Bryan, and the main villain, Mysterium, played by Richard Mole, and some of the road warrior vehicles used in the movie are seen once again in, Charles Band's is, 1980 Dungeon Master. This has it quoted as a 1985, but yeah, we'll look into that.
I guess we get in. Yeah, so the movie opens actually in like with a character place like hooked up to a series of electrodes. The only like two of them, not a lot of it. I see a series, and that makes it sound like there's more electrodes than there are, but it's like two electrodes. It's not a big deal. But yeah, we see him woke up to that. At the end of his bed, he sees a figure cloaked in red, which is as his vision clears up, is revealed to be a woman in a red dress. He starts following around. First, a bit whimsically, the music you judge the mood of the chasing by the music. The first bit of music's a bit whimsical. He's chasing her through this like concrete 007 golden eye level. It makes sense if you've seen it. So yeah, he's chasing her through this little concrete situation, and then chases her into a tunnel in the concrete, and the music turns a bit sinister. Makes us understand something sinister is afoot. And then he chases her into this misty room, and she starts ripping away these cords that are wrapped around her like a belt, and eventually that allows her to like take off all the cords and then take off her dress, and then she waits for him on a conveniently located bed. They start getting into an embrace when a randomly placed security door opens, and a bunch of I'll call them orcs because they kind of give me orc vibes, come in and steal the lady, and then that's the end of the sequence, and we get our title screen, which for me read Wage War. Did it read? Yeah, it read Rage War for you. You said right.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't watch it on Tubi because for whatever reason, Tubi makes my phone like heat up massively, and I can't figure out what the
Huh.
problem is
I
with
mean,
it.
I'm watching it on my smart TV.
Yeah, whenever I have it plugged into my phone, like my phone plugged into the charger, and I try and run Tubi, it just massively overheats. So I don't know if that's a problem with my phone or a problem with Tubi, but
Yeah, I haven't. I don't know. It seemed okay on my TV. I think I got for what it's worth. I'm just like first impressions because I've only used the service for watching this movie. It seems all right. Seems like a decent deal. I watched like two commercials for hour and 20-minute long movie. That seems fine. That's a hell of a lot better deal than you get on
yeah, and
TV for free. And
I
that,
feel like I could find my way around that, but eh, just so
yeah,
that they're not making money off of me. Uh, I think I've watched YouTube videos, like hour-long YouTube videos with like tons more ads in it. So
oh yeah,
I
even
mean,
yeah.
two is two is probably
I mean,
uh
almost every
not bad.
hour long YouTube video I watch is like on like the Rwandan genocide and whatnot has been demonetized all hell. So I don't get a lot of commercials on YouTube. Just kind of handy for my sort of dark-ish viewing habits are kind of helpful in that regard.
Uh, okay. Do you want
Yeah.
to elaborate on why you're watching videos about the Rwandan genocide at this point?
I wanted to learn
Are
about the
you like
Rwandan
just
genocide.
curious or like
I like
okay,
watching
fair enough.
history movies. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That's super dark. From
Yeah.
my understanding, what the Rwandan genocide was, would like basically the Rwanda government like handed out like 1,000 machetes and was just like, yeah, go do genocide.
It,
I don't know how to make this funny. This is a funny segment. It's really dark. And yeah, that's essentially what happened. It's also like some of the basis of the movie The Hotel Rwanda, which I
yeah.
think is Cuba Gooding Jr., is it not?
I have no idea. But yeah, that's
Movie
actually
tie-in.
sort of basically it. Yeah, it goes back to like essentially like the the Europeans like putting a bunch of separate tribes into like one big box, and like essentially they ended up having to fight it out, which eventually just led into I forget even which group did what. But one of them got in charge and decided to like just murder the biggest or second biggest group, because there were like the Putsu and the Tutsi, which are the two big ones, and there's like a third one that's kind of like marginal, which is only like it has
See
like
the Tawa and the
yeah
Kudu.
yeah the Tawa. They're only like they were only like 10% of the population, although they did get caught in this a little bit. But yeah, anyway, moving on. And that's just an example. I've I mean, not a great example. I'm like, my other thing, I was watching like a thing on the Elon. I've already forgotten how to pronounce the name of the school. It was the Elon school, which was like apparently in Maine you can just do whatever you want to teenagers like teenagers, more or less. It goes about as badly as you'd expect.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, it was well, it was a troubled teens camp school sort of thing. Although it wasn't very good at
Hmm.
schoolwork from what I can tell. But it was like you'd send teenagers there if they were like assumption was like they get sent there if they were being uh like causing a lot of trouble or whatever, but it was also like it was that, and also like parents who just like throw their kids at it because they did something which may or may not have been like none of this had to go through the courts if they didn't want it to. You could just send your kid there if you felt they were causing problems. Yeah, it's a pretty rough story. One of the worst like schools that has ever existed.
Yeah.
Like not on the scale of like any of those like any residential school setup, but it's got a good running for like worse schools in the scale of like, oh, like three guys died here or whatever. But yeah, anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I've looked up weird stuff like Stanford prison experiments and stuff like that, but can't say I've ever watched documentaries on it. So
Yeah, no, yeah, this was the Behind the Bastards
yeah.
two-parter. But yeah.
Also this lady who played Leslie Wing in this no Leslie Wing who plays Gwen Rogers, Paul's girlfriend in this, is the mom from like Zac Efron's mom from High School Musical 3.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no clue where that tie-in came, but yeah, she went on to play 3 of the movies.
Well, yeah, I suppose
So,
she'd be a side character, anyway. Um.
I mean, she's only 59, so
Oh yeah. Anyway, next scene, we cut to our main character Paul sleeping at his computer, which is talking to him. Yeah, it's a super tech computer. He's calling Cal. Come on, be a little bit more creative, guys. Is all I have to say to that. But it's a kind of a hefty '80s computer, but it doesn't actually look that impressive. It's not. I mean, there's some cool stuff in this. Like Paul also has like smart glasses, which is helpful. That's kind of cool. But we only see that in like the first bit of the movie, really. But Cal is waking him up, saying that he has a repair appointment soon, and he goes and he has to wake up and go do that. And he does some computer repairs at this business, and after he's done there, he's going to go for a run, and he has some back and forth with this executive guy who he was doing some work for, and then he goes for his run. We cut to back to Gwen, his wife, who's doing some dance instruction because she's an '80s exercise dance. She's an '80s dancer, dressed as all '80s dancers are. You know what I mean? But yeah, he we get a demonstration of Paul's smart glasses when he withdraws some money from his ATM without touching anything. So that's neat. and he does that to buy some flowers for Gwen, for Gwen, for Gwen. Sorry, I'm yawning. And yeah, they meet back at home, and Paul gives Gwen some flowers and asks if she wants to marry him, which she's not sure about because she's a little disturbed by this really intimate connection that he has with his computer. Apparently, there was an accident, and now he can just sort of link up with his computer mentally. Yeah, it's weird. This is probably the
I feel
first
like
big.
this is
Yeah,
weirdly every person's dream at this point in time.
yeah,
It's kind of ironic that they were this was put out in 1984, right?
yep,
This was like George Orwell's like this is the collapse of human civilization. But also I was gonna say that like, and I think that one of the major components of this movie is like technology is magic at some point in time. Like they're trying to make that connection. So this
yeah.
also is uh kind of funny that I can't even remember if they said it was an accident or if it was like some form of government program where they were like trying to train people to be able to connect to
I I'm
uh
fairly certain they said there was an accident,
okay, maybe I was missing something in the dialogue. The closest thing we've got nowadays is like Google Glasses or
which they never.
here I am still using this mouse to be able to control my computer, so
Yeah,
can't do it with my mind yet.
which yeah. I kind of do want those Google glasses at some point, or like maybe not Google glasses, but like smart glasses. I think are kind of a cool concept. If you can get them to work properly, I don't know. I'm a bit of a, I'm always a bit of a sucker for like high tech fanciness.
I feel like they have a lot more like to come in the next couple of years before they're actually like viable, but that's just my opinion. So
Oh yeah, probably. I think that's what the because they were yeah, they never went to like big market as far as I can tell. So yeah, I'm willing. Maybe by the time I'm 40 or whatever, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is they're setting up this plot where like Gwen's kind of jealous of the computer. They don't really resolve this properly. In fact, this little sequence ends with like his glasses like lighting up green as if Cal's going to get jealous. Never happens. This isn't resolved. It's just sort of like shoved to the side. Which is your first, which is the one real like instance of like some like not translating into the future bits of the movie between director segments. So I think I mean this yeah, it's pretty egregious though. So I don't want to give them too much slack for it. But yeah, they kind of just like don't come to a conclusion on this. Gwen hasn't said that she wants to marry him yet, although they do still go to bed together. That he doesn't she doesn't make him sleep on the couch or anything. I think like maybe they're implying that this is they still think this is a little silly, but yeah, it's not. This is kind of one of the weaker sections of the movie. Really, just cuz it doesn't it prompts some things we don't really get. As he goes to sleep, he wakes up and finds that Gwen is gone. So he wanders, walks around, starts calling her name, and then he wanders into the computer room. And it seems at first that like Cal has like teleported him into a outdoors setting where he wanders into some finds a waterfall where Gwen is in, but he tries to get close and slams his and ends up walking into an energy field, which seems to fry him a bit, and then he gets teleported somewhere else. He gets Apparently, this is all the work of some evil sorcerer wizard guy called Melfiot. Melfiot. I'm sorry. I've messed that up pretty bad. Oh, M-
Mysterium.
Mestima.
Mysterium?
Mestima.
Okay, we're both fucking it up at this point.
He's kind of good. I kind
uh,
of like Mestima. He's played by Richard Mole. I think he does
yeah.
kind of cool. He does all right. He's very he does over the top wizard pretty well. I'll give him that. But yeah, he's called Paul here, and he's chained Gwen to a rock, like she's Andromeda or something, and says that he wants to have a big challenge between the power of magic versus his machine, and is going to put him through several challenges, and he thereby dubs Paul Excalibrate, which is cute. For a number of reasons, obviously. Calibrate is a computer thing, Excalibur reference, and then also Cal, as in Cal the computer. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I don't think these naming conventions are always that impressive. It's kind of, but whatever. So yeah, he's Mestima sends both of them away, and they're found in a ice cave filled with sculptures of a werewolf, a bunch Jack the Ripper, a bunch Louis the 16th is one, a couple other monsters, and Einstein, which is a bit of a curiosity. And Einstein's holding a crystal of some sort. And they come to the conclusion this is some sort of hall of famous criminals. Gwen starts getting
It's
frozen.
arguably, you could argue that like Einstein was like a major component to the making of the nuclear bomb.
Yeah, if you really want to reach, he did hang
Oh,
out with this German school that was kind of like let's just say it was the German Epstein of its day, and he did hang out there a little bit. Not saying he did anything because you couldn't on there's no fucking way on earth you'd be able to prove that either way. But yeah, that's the worst I got. Although I don't think that's the direction this movie is going. I only know about that because I've watched a bunch of dark history podcasts.
fair enough.
But yeah, so Gwen starts freezing up, and then as she's freezing up, Mistima's just like, "Oh yeah, it's getting cold in here. You want it to warm up?" And she's just like, "Yes, yes, please," because she's gonna freeze like the statues. And then they warm up the room, and all the statues come to life. I think all the statues were just guys standing still and like iffy bake up. But anyway, Paul has to fight off a werewolf and a bunch of other guys. He it's revealed in a scene that he can use Cal, who's now mounted to a gauntlet, like cloth gauntlet wrapped around his right arm. Can shoot lasers. Eventually, he manages to solve this whole puzzle by taking the crystal that Einstein holds and throwing it at the monsters, solving the riddle. I think they're trying to say that this is a method of science rejecting magic, and that he's supposed to like teach him to depend on his strengths, which I think is what they're going for. This movie tries to be
The
deep.
amount of things that you could, it does. It really does. So like the whole thing that I took from it, like the whole scene previously was that like these are my collection of people that went to hell.
Yeah, that could
Um,
be. Yeah,
and Mysterium was the devil in this whole entire anthology for me. But
yeah.
uh, then again, my take on the movie was very, very limited. So
Yeah, they do imply he's a satanic agent. There is a point where, like a little earlier in the movie, when he's like knighting Paul as Excalibrate, he says, "By the power of the Prince of Darkness." Which yeah, I guess Ozzy Osbourne has that authority, but I mean, yeah, good for him. Really, I suppose. I wouldn't mind being knighted by the glory of Ozzy Osbourne.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne from Black Sabbath. They call him the Prince of Darkness sometimes.
I don't think you need to explain the bit here at this point, Kyle.
Yeah, I know. I kind of like to. Anyway, moving on. I don't. I also wouldn't mind being. I mean, you can't because he's dead. But Ronnie James. If we're going like singers for Sabbath that you could be knighted by, you could go by like Ronnie James Dio, aka the Man on the Silver Mountain. That works.
Was Dio in?
Yeah, he was in Sabbath for a bit after like they kicked out Ozzy for being a junkie.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Dio played for a few different bands. I think Rainbow's probably one of his famous ones, but I think he's done a few things. Anyway,
fair
moving on.
enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he did 2 albums. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask. I have a buddy who would know, but moving on. So this brings them into the next scene where they make Paul have to confront his own death. This is probably the weakest challenge in my opinion. It's the one where I'd like, yeah, I just don't buy it. It kind of works on another level though. The goal of this is he goes to confront Rat Spit, the master of the dead, and he has to confront beat up a bunch of undead warriors and then confront his own corpse as a way of like confronting his own death. And this is where he drops the line about like oh, you have to confront Mistima's just like, oh, you have to confront this because you're going to die one day. And he's just like, you don't know that. This is a possible reality. I reject your reality and substitute my own, which is a fucking hell of a thing to do in this situation. I guess he's being challenged by the devil, and that's kind of what the devil would want you to say, probably. I think that's a pretty uh, decent version of that if you're trying to impress like a satanic agent. But I don't know that it's an actual good idea. But on the other hand, they do challenge. I don't think he ever really passes this challenge, which I'll get to in a little bit because there's a. I think they kind of come back to this thematically toward the end of the movie. But anyway, so he does that. Mistima shows off some of his music because he's talking about how he's made some music, and Paul plays some music back, and they says, "Oh, you like this music? Well, I'm gonna send you to a concert and have the guy playing that music be my agent." And he gets sent to a Wasp concert. Wasp is a shock rock band from the 80s. I think they're still basically around. But Wasp spelt with periods in between them as if they are how to say as if it's an acronym, which some guys, which they never confirmed what the acronym is. There's also just some antidotes that it's just like they meant to name themselves Wasp, and they wanted to do this because it hadn't really been done before. Even though REM is a band that's 2 years older than these guys, but yeah, they're like a metal band, and they're performing here, playing their song "Torment," which is a decent song. Frontman is Lackey Lawless. I don't know what the whole lineup is right here, but we'll move on. So yeah, he ends up having to Paul ends up having to fight his way through this, and it turns out they have Gwen on stage as like a prop, who's like chained up, and Blackie has to menace her a bit before Paul manages to set his set Cal to do disintegrate people who are playing at a particular melody, and then they manage to kill the band. But yeah, I thought the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants did really kind of neat here. They're kind of cool. I might check out a bit more of their music. Damn it, I wanted to get it. I wanted to do a bit where I got in a lot more of their proposed acronym names, but I don't know. I'll take my opportunities where I can get them because there's going to be some more. Moving on. So after this, Mistima taunts Gwen because he's just like, "Why are you wasting your time on him?" And they're sort of like trying to call back to like the entry scene of the movies. They don't do this particularly well because now she's really just being entirely reasonable, which there's a version of this where you go completely in the opposite direction, and she's just like not impressed by the fact that Paul is doing this for her, which would be bad. But I think they could have her be a little more doubtful of their relationship. Mistima ends up referring to Paul as a child, and Gwen is just like, he's not a child compared to you, which is kind of a good line. But yeah, I don't think it matches with the setup they've done for these characters, which they don't. Yeah, again, they just don't do a payoff for it. They get sent to the next segment where Paul is unconscious, which sometimes he's injured when they teleport him, sometimes he's not. This time he is injured, and a couple little people steal his Cal gauntlet and run away with it. He chases them, and the little people leave Cal on like an offering totem in front of this big stone statue. When Paul the st- uh, retrieves Cal from the statue comes to life and tries to attack him. And it's a really neat kind of stop motion. I don't know how good it really looks for the time, but it's kind of neat to modernize because we don't really get to see this sort of effect anymore. Mostly because, admittedly, it does. You can tell it's a fake thing, but it does have a sort of beauty to it because you can appreciate the artistry even if like you're very convinced it's a prop. What do you think? What's your opinions on this old timey stop motion effect?
I think for the most part, so like a lot of the special effects I've seen throughout this movie have been fairly decent.
Yeah, they're not
One of
bad.
them, him when he walked out into the well, the kid. Let me rephrase that. The makeup special effects are really good in this movie.
Hmm.
The like digital special effects in this movie are absolutely horrible. It's exactly what you'd expect from like a 1984 movie in terms of special effects, like lasers being shot out and like uh
Yeah,
dragons. They did like purple and a green dragon like fighting each other at one point in time on top of a mountain and stuff like that. And some of it's cool, but it's like nothing fantastic or nothing more modern. However, the makeup special effects, like they did a scene where what's his face? The main character.
Paul.
There was at one point in time like a scene where Paul comes out and he like starts melting and getting scabbed over essentially. Is fairly decent at the beginning. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the special effects. I like the makeup.
Hmm.
Don't necessarily like the digital special effects, but fairly decent
Yeah, digital effects are like
for
literally 2 years old at
1985.
this point. Like
Fair
Tron
enough.
and Wrath of Khan are the first films to introduce them, and it's like 19 and
Oh,
those
Wrath
movies
of
are like
Khan is
1982. I think laser effects
yeah.
kind of existed before, but I think it looks good compared to like the one they do in Wrath of Khan, like the dragon scene. I think that works a little bit better, mostly because they're going with that neon uh aesthetic. Yeah, it is nice seeing costumes again. The one kind of, this is gonna sound really terrible to say, but like one of the nice things that'll kind of probably happen once all the visual effects guys unionize, which I think is starting to happen, is that the movie studios will start having to split their time between VFX and like physical effects, which is gonna be rough on some people, but it's kind of nice. It'll be kind of nice knowing there's a better balance and that they're hiring people because hiring a visual effect or a physical effect because it's better for the scene and not because one of those things is unionized and the other is not. But yeah, so that's yeah, he Paul fights the evil moving statue, and it ends up in a bit of a laser fight because the statue can also shoot a laser, and he shoots the gemstone at the top of the stone statue, and that causes the stone statue to explode. Also, one of the little people throws a
I'm
boulder
not
at him during the
not
scene.
completely crazy at this point in time, but like the whole entire like main quest has been to destroy rocks at this point, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of rock destroying. That is fair.
Okay, because like in the first scene, he grabs the crystal out of the person's hand and then throws it on the ground, and then
It explodes. Yeah.
there was a later scene with a character named Ritspat that he uses the laser to blow up a wand in his hand. So it's just been literally like three things of like just blowing up rocks with a laser. It's like the one special effect that they had available to them, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah, and to add on to that, there are two instances of like rocks fall, people die, which is
Mhm.
kind of also interesting. Which we'll get in our, I
So
think.
what they're
Yeah. I mean, they're later in the movie. You might have
saying
missed
is
them,
that the
but
rocks are the real
yeah,
magic in this film.
yeah, rocks win. But yeah, they do that. He gets sent back, and Mestima offers to trade Paul his freedom for Gwen. He refuses. He offers to free him and also give him enough money to finance like literally whatever he wants. He can make like his own empire. And for his freedom, he says no. He says, "Look, I'll final offer. If you let me have this woman, I'll give you 3 women." Which he, God damn it, he's way too tempted by that.
Which I mean, arguably at this point in time, it seems that like Paul is way more into Gwen than Gwen is into Paul.
Yeah,
Like the whole starting sequence, he proposes to this girl, and this girl is like, maybe not. You're way too into your computer. So, I mean, take the empire and 3 women.
to be fair, she is really into him. Like she is entirely loyal the entire time she's chained up, which is, I don't know, perhaps problematic. I don't know. I'm not gonna break open a feminism degree for this movie, but yeah, it's also like, dude, that's your fiance. You're really gonna like trade her for a bunch of women this guy probably conjured out of nothing, like right in front of her? Okay, dude. Yeah, I buy this situation. So yeah, he's just like, he Paul refuses, and Massima calls him a fool, and he's just like, well, there's no fool like an old fool. So he teleports him away, and we get to the segment that our main character wrote, where Paul finds himself next to a trail of blood and a newspaper saying that Gwen has been murdered by a serial killer. And the bunch of blood leads to a dead woman who is hidden underneath a slab of cardboard. Mathema. Sorry, I'm all right. Forgetting this guy's goddamn name. Meth Mesthema. God damn it! It's the S and the T right next to each other with no H, which is getting me. But yeah, he says, "Hey, that newspaper's dated for tomorrow, so you have however many hours to save her, save your wife." Who it's revealed is going to a dance audition as being followed by a mysterious guy in the shadows. So immediately after he gets his Paul gets his bearings, he is captured by the police who find him near the dead woman. He has to escape from the police using like some little laser beams to pick the handcuff locks, which he does, and then makes it just in time to do a laser reflection off a mirror, which is red this time, and getting the serial killer. And he managed to just barely pass this test. So yeah, that's a thing. yeah, and I think there's not much between this and the next task. The next task involves him being put up against a hole in the ground. Cal says that this hole is putting off a bunch of radioactivity, and he's just like, I don't know if I should go in there. And then he hears Gwen calling from it, so he goes in. He ends up having to fight off a demon who perhaps we saw earlier in the in an earlier scene through a window into another dimension. So they get into a fight, they throw rocks at each other. He fires some lasers into the roof and causes rocks to fall on the demon, and the demon is killed by the rocks, and it reverts to an angel, which I guess this is this movie explaining, because like in Christianity demons are fallen angels, and I guess by killing the fallen angel it reverts back to a regular angel, which I kind of that's kind of a neat concept. I don't know that anyone's used that to like its full effect before. I think that'd be a neat concept for like a Christian fantasy series of like trying to like redeem fallen angels by killing them, I guess.
You just said Christian fantasy movie, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of like you could also like when I'm saying that you could also like I could also use that to describe like the good Indiana Jones movies or like Dracula, like movies like fantasy
Oh,
movies
that
that take
reminds me.
place using like the assumption that Christian stuff is real. I guess you could also throw in like The Exorcist. That's kind of what I mean. Like a fantasy movie that uses the
Hmm,
like if it, like Christian
Constantine.
mythology. Yeah.
You're thinking of Constantine.
I feel like Constantine uses other stuff though.
Although I don't know.
I feel like he does. He does fight the devil
Uh,
a lot. Although there's also three
yeah.
devils in
So
Constantine.
it's drawn mostly from I'm assuming Catholicism, not necessarily Christianity, although they're very similar. I
I
don't know
yeah,
the difference. Uh,
I'm using Christianity as like the
then
catch-all term. Yeah.
there's side characters that do a lot of like hoodoo, voodoo.
Yeah.
I don't know if hoodoo's technically the correct term for it either. Voodoo and stuff like that. Um, that's Papa Midnight. Uh, but yeah, just basically Constantine.
So yeah, that's a whole thing, and like the angel reveals that like, oh yeah, you could have passed this test by just turning around and like not coming in here. And then he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, and she's just like, don't be. I've this is the end for me, and that's the happy thing. Which I don't know. That's kind of a neat little thing. I kind of like that. And then they teleport him away. This brings us to the last challenge, which is in a Mad Max cyberpunk world thing. He ends up have Max and Gwen have to fight off a couple raiders with lasers, which ends up working out. They take a car somewhere and they're just trying to get wherever, and they're pursued by some other cars, which Gwen shoots at with a gun with the gun laser gun they have. This all ends with Mesthema in another car and manages to hack into their car, and the two cars drive straight at each other, and they end like a in a play chicken scenario, and then this entire sequence ends with Paul shouting Masima as they crash into each other. Which I think is a better kind of a callback to like earlier, where he's like, "This is him confronting his own death." I don't know that he passes this test. Do any of us really? But moving on. Yeah, that's a kind of it's kind of a neat scene. I kind of brushed past it, but it's kind of cool. I suppose between the two final events, they're talking about where they're at. Masthema drops a line which I think is kind of interesting, where he's just like, you know, this you think that natural disasters are in fact just God trying to kill us? Like that was kind of a line they dropped, and I thought that was kind of a weird, interesting concept. Maybe it's kind of good omensy, but maybe not. Probably not. I don't know that anyone here is like as good as the combined powers of Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. That reminds me,
Probably not the
no
combined powers of
is the new Good Omens out yet?
Yeah, season 2 was released a couple of weeks back actually.
Oh yeah,
Which
I got
which is
yeah.
funny because everybody was like, "Oh, Cody, you need to watch Good Omens. It's so good. It's so good." And then I actually sat down and watched it and it was really good. And so I started the first season because they were showing like I was assuming that the second season was out. And so like 2 days before the second season released, I sat down and I binge watched the whole entire first season in like a day and a half or whatever. And then I was like, "Oh, sweet. Now I can start season 2." And then I looked at it and turns out season 2 wasn't releasing until the end of the week, so I had to wait a whole entire week before I could actually sit down and watch Good Omens season 2. So,
I'll have to dust
yeah,
off.
kind of sucks. But yeah, no, Good Omens is really good.
Yeah, I'll have to dust off my Prime Video subscription to watch some more of it.
Steal it.
I mean, I have it. I mean, Lexi has it. My sister has it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I
Because
just
they're the ones of the people that haven't like you need to stop password sharing. So
yeah, I suppose. I mean, it is also a
yeah,
big pain in the ass if I ever get logged out of it. Although the
fair
video
enough. Yeah.
sharing thing, honestly, the actual Amazon store is hard to get into because anytime I have to get into the Amazon store, it's just like I have to have this conversation where it's just like, "Hey, sis, I want to log into the Amazon store, and it sent you a code that I need to enter into the thing so I can log into the Amazon store." Which is why I don't
Well, by the
do that.
time you send it and she
Yeah.
sends it back,
Oh yeah.
the code it actually expires because I'm assuming she
Also
doesn't live
yes,
with you and like it's all out of all out of like
it
get
was easier when she
get
was
your
in
own
school
Amazon account.
because she was kind of available all day, but now she works during the day. So
Yeah, fair
anyway,
enough.
yeah. So Paul kind of like talks shit about this whole challenge thing now that he's. It's not clear that he won it. Actually, it seems like they kind of ended in a draw there. That didn't seem like a solid win at that the end of that last challenge, if that makes sense. So Paul's just like, "Hey, I want a duel. No magic, no machine. We just fight." So they do, and Mestima ends up getting into a fist fight. They tell him not to do it because Mistima's a giant, which I mean he's like 4 inches taller than. They do their best with the perspectives, but they can't really get much. Like he's not that much taller. So they get into a fist fight. They do the like mutual choking thing, and Mestima tries to use magic and causes a ledge they're on to collapse. And Mestima falls down, and Cal manages to use its lasers to save because it can do that, I guess. Anyway, yeah, and that's pretty well the end of the movie. They kiss. They end up back in the room with Cal, perhaps implying this was all simulation of Cal's for good or for ill. I don't know. Yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Okay, so I didn't miss a whole bunch of it,
I might
just
be
some of
leaving
it.
out a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. Not really big on it.
I thought it was better, and then I actually started sitting down and watching some of it, and yeah, I think generally speaking, you've talked me down some of the higher praise that I was going to give it. So
Yeah. Yeah. What was the higher plays? Just to like talk through it, I guess.
sorry.
What were
Oh,
you? Yeah.
I mean, all things considered, I thought it. I was probably going to put it in the 6 or 7 range, considering it was made in 1984, and honestly, it had some cool moments, but some of the special effects were good. I kind of liked the idea of the computers. and the lasers, but they've kind of used the lasers as like the ultimate cop out throughout the entire film. So
Yeah.
like the whole entire plot and premise I kind of enjoyed, but the
Hmm.
some of the special effects along with it, but ultimately, I mean, for also being an anthology film, it kind of pieces together a little bit better than what I had originally thought it would be when I read the term anthology film. I'm gonna say probably for me at least, it's still just gonna sit on the lower end of 6 rather than a 5, but not quite a 7.
Yeah. No, I'm on 5 because it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
bold experiment. I don't know that they really had like a big. I didn't feel like a big payoff at the end. A lot of bold decisions that are kind of interesting. I just didn't have a big like, oh, this is good move a moment.
Yeah, it's kind of falling in under like the Running Man scenario the other day where I got super hyped because we ended up doing a movie, Death Race 2000, and we ended up bringing up Running Man, and I'm like, man, Running Man sounds cool. And then I actually sat down and watched like Arnold Schwarzenegger's like Running Man, and it kind of didn't live up to the hype of what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, I can
And
see that.
have you seen The Running Man?
No, but it just seemed kind of cheesy. So yeah.
Oh, but honestly, if you're looking for a movie out of the blue and you're like, man, what movie should I watch? I suggest The Running Man. So it's just dumb fun. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what my opinion of this movie was like, man, I just want to like disconnect my brain. Um, the ultimate movie for that, in my opinion, is Cocaine Bear. Like you don't need to know anything about Cocaine Bear to understand Cocaine Bear. This one takes a little bit more thinking, but Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. Did you want to just do like whatever Metal Armageddon, whatever that cool fucking movie you described at the beginning of the episode was next?
Uh, yeah, I completely forgot the name of the film, but
I can
I
find it.
can find it and send it to you.
Yeah. I think I saw it somewhere. Metal Storm, the destruction of Jared Sin.
Metal Storm, the Dish of Jared Sin. I don't know who Jared Sin is, but fuck him.
Well, I mean, it's hyphenated Jared Sin, like a Star Wars character.
Oh yeah, we could definitely be like misinterpreting what a Jared Sin is in this film anthology, but
There's one way to find out. Presumably, let's go. Yeah, stay tuned in probably like a couple weeks, maybe a month for this. What I assume is some early '80s Star Wars knockoff.
well, it's definitely a tie-in because Jeffrey Bryan was the main actor here and the main actor there. It was directed by Charles Band once again, the same one of the directors of the 7 anthology films, and it also has the guy who played Mystium in it. So I mean, yeah, it's got some really shitty IMDb scores, and apparently Amazon.ca gives it a 4.2 out of 5. So
When has that ever stopped me?
like Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 23%, but
Yeah.
81% of Google users like it. So I mean, where are we drawing the line here?
I mean, I'm gonna go
Yeah,
into this with a positive attitude and a skip in my step. So
I mean, this was 1 year before. So it'd be really actually interesting to see how this one, being slightly older than Dungeon Masters, holds up to like the same level of special effects as Dungeon Masters. I'm assuming it's still going to be fairly bad, but it'll be interesting to not only see the same person. Ooh, wait, what? Speaking of Christian horror movies, there's a horror sci-fi film created in 1985 called The Evil Clergyman, also directed by Charles Band.
like it's the biography of Pope John Paul II. That's
It's an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft, The Evil Clergyman. So
Oh, so like,
it's actually goes under the film title called Pulse Pounders.
okay, so I can make this joke work. Okay, H.P. Lovecraft. Oh, sorry, hold on. Better
God damn it!
question. Better question. Evil clergyman novel. I can make this joke work. I'm doing it live. Um. Okay. Okay. So that's 1933. Pope. 1933. God, no! Don't go away. What happened? Oh, right. Okay, I see what I did. No, I hit F11 there for a second. Uh, okay, so it's the biography of Pope Pius the 11th. There we go. That's the
You
joke.
do realize I have not seen or know enough about Christian or Catholic popes to make this joke work, right?
Yeah. I mean, the entire joke is that he was the Pope between 1922 and 1939, and that something about the Catholic,
Oh,
like the
okay.
Vatican being an evil organization. That's the entire bit.
So this Pulse Pounders, directed by Charles Band, starring Richard Mole in the lead actor's role, and also Jeffrey Bryan and Helen Hunt, apparently.
I mean, we can't
So
do their entire filmography,
we're not
but
gonna,
maybe someday.
maybe someday
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
spread it out a little.
I don't know that Jeremy Byron fan cast is like the direction we want to go with this. I mean, it can't be. I don't think we could do much worse numbers wise, but I don't know that there's a lot of energy behind that.
Maybe we'll split this up. Um, and if you want to see us do Pulse Pounders, we'll do it on like one of the live casts.
There's an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, just to split it up, and so we're not going full fanboy mode at this point in time. I wouldn't even really call it fanboy, but anyways,
Okay. See you next week. See you later. Um, I gotta call back. Not anyway. Go move. Goodbye. Goodbye. Go back. Goodbye. Stop.